We have an opportunity to update that strategic vision, and I think it's really important that we do that.
Thank you. David.
Thank you, David. One of the areas that I am most proud of, I think, is my work as public at large on the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation. The Northwest Area Commission, there are 6 or 7 area commissions on transportation. I'm a member of the Northwest, which includes Tillamook County, Clatsop County, Columbia County, and the very western reaches of Washington County. Now, we compete for ODOT funding in all the different area commissions on transportation. Leanne Welch is very active in this. Commissioner Labhart is very active in this. Of all the area commissions on transportation, I think we are probably one of the most successful area commissions on transportation in the state. We do bring an inordinate amount of money from the state into the Northwest, and actually Tillamook County, of the 4 that I mentioned, really is at the top of that list also. We've done things such as the Cloverdale Wayside. We did some runway repairs at the Port of Tillamook Bay with Michelle. We've done work in downtown Garibaldi and Tillamook and up in Manzanita. Various projects that we've worked on over the years. One project in particular that is very important to us right now is the Tiger Grant. Leanne Welch is applying for a Tiger Grant to help repair the Cape Mears Loop Road. Yes, now this is, as all of you know, this was a major problem this winter. At one point or another, traffic was going one way or the other when we lost access to either Cape Mears or to Oceanside, and they were having to use pilot cars to get people out of the communities and to work, and it was just a disaster. So a Tiger Grant is going to be very beneficial in relocating the road slightly above the current slide area so that we can get traffic in. I'm at the southern end, Pacific City. We're at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, and it's really important, I think, that we get that back together. So work on the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, I feel, has been really good. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. Number 8.
Number 8. Given the continuing trend of cutbacks
Sure.
because of funding deficiencies in our county government, are you prepared to make the really hard choices? In particular, at what point do some programs or agencies become completely ineffective because they have been cut back over and over again and should just be shelved in order to properly support others, at least at a viable level?
Wow.
Oh, no problem. I got this one. I think fiscal health is one of the things that when I was putting this campaign together, and you get blasted with a lot of questions. I will say this is one of the longer ones, so I'm going to probably take it in a couple of quick pieces. For my entire career, I have worked in substance abuse prevention and treatment. So you're talking about a field that has gone through cut after cut after cut until the lack of services, the consequences to the communities can be really plainly seen no matter where you go. We know the difficulties of mental health issues that go untreated. We know the difficulties of addictions and the kind of crime rates that they involve. So if you're talking about making really hard fiscal choices, that's something I have a career in. I have been the state program manager for both the state of Wyoming and the state of Nevada for substance abuse prevention. And there's a whole story about doing prevention in Las Vegas that I don't have time to tell you about, but it's entertaining. When I got to Las Vegas, prevention got $42,000 a year statewide. It was a joke. So part of what we had to do was to have all of our funding be discretionary and at the sake of Washington D.C. or some outside agency because we didn't get it. hard choices have always got to be made when it comes to trying to find fiscal help. I'll tell you what I did in Nevada. My team worked on advocacy with our legislature and our state legislators. Our community and county coalitions worked to advocate for funding because we were losing our $3 million a year grant that funded 180 programs in our state. We were going to have to cut them all. And our legislature voted, after our advocacy work, to go from $42,000 a year to $3,000 a year into perpetuity to fund substance abuse prevention, and another $2 million biannually to do meth. So when it comes to making hard choices and not only having to cut things, but finding out how to fund them, that's something I've got 30 years of professional experience doing that I would bring to this job. Thank you.
Thank you. And the hard choices, I think at the very beginning, we have to change the way we do our budget. We've been doing traditional budgeting here forever. When I worked for the state in the 70s, we were doing traditional budgeting. We moved to zero base. The state finally went to performance-based budgeting in 2011. I believe that we get away from traditional budgeting and we move to results-based budgeting. Instead of saying what's mandatory, we have to fund that, what isn't mandatory, where can we cut it, we ask those questions again of the people. How much have we done? How well did we do it? Is anyone better off? And if a program can answer those in a positive way, we start funding for what people want, what people need to see, instead of funding what the mandatory. And again, it takes, the first step is getting away from traditional budgeting. We got 3%, where we can raise it, where can we cut? We have to get to results-based budgeting, and I think that is the key.
So our county continues to feel the impacts of declining revenues, and county department heads are asked over and over again how they can cut. And that it's a backwards approach to how we manage the limited resources that our county has available to it. We have to recognize that counties have mandated services. There are services that the county is required to provide. But once we've met those needs, the balance is discretionary, and it has to be informed by what the citizens think are important. One of the things that I think is critical is that we expand upon our community partnerships. Much of the services that are provided in Tillamook County are provided by our very robust social service network, and those partnerships are critical because we cannot keep cutting the services that the county provides. We have to understand what citizens think are important. I also have experience with budgeting, both having worked for the county and managing the solid waste budget, but also in the Nia County School District Budget Committee. I'm well familiar with having to make difficult choices. Education is challenged with funding, as is the county, and when you're having to make choices about what kinds of programs are available to your children, that's one of the most difficult choices that you can make. But the reality is that we have limited resources, we have declining revenues, and we need to be wise stewards of those resources. I have experience making the tough choices, and I look forward to working with the community to prioritize the resources that we do have.
Thank you. Come down to the other end of the table. Color doesn't mean anything, don't worry.
I'm not looking at the, oh, I wasn't looking at the color, but then I got red. 19.
19. Question number 19 is, what role can the commissioners play in developing incentives for building and or rehabbing low-income housing for minimum wage workers?
Excellent. Very good question. So I think we're all aware that the availability of housing in not only Tillamook County, but most of our coastal communities is at a critical state right now. Not only do we have limited access to affordable housing, but we have limited access to available long-term housing in general. Our workforce is challenged to find housing that is available for long-term rental. Our seniors are challenged to find housing that is affordable given fixed incomes. Our families, working families, are challenged to find affordable single-family homes or even multifamily housing. So I think we can all agree that this is a critical issue that not only Tillamook County is facing, but many of our coastal communities are facing this as well. In terms of incentives, I think we have a couple of opportunities. First and foremost, we need to look at our land use and our zoning. And we need to better understand where the available lands are for building either multifamily homes or apartments and rental facilities. And we need to be willing to be creative within the construct that we have available to us. So first we need to look at what lands are available and whether or not there needs to be flexibility around the land use and zoning. In terms of incentives, I think that's something that we can evaluate. If there are developers that are willing to invest in our communities, we also have employers that are having a hard time recruiting employees because there isn't housing available for them. There has to be a solution where we can bring all affected parties to the table, but that solution has to address not only affordable housing, but the availability of housing broadly within our community.
Shane?
Thank you. And housing, obviously an issue, and one time someone asked me, said, would you give up farmland or forest land so you could have more housing? And I say no, but I think that we should. One thing that it's kind of interesting, we have our 7 cities, but we have got a lot of cities that we could do, that our county is our city planner. And I think we need to recognize that I have a fondness for tiny homes. I don't mean just 8 foot wide on wheels, but what if we had a community that you could have, instead of 8 homes to the acre, 8 houses on a city block, maybe you could put 14 homes, and you could build these smaller homes that were 800 to less than 1,000 feet and make them available for $25,000 or $30,000. But also, I think that we should probably say they are not available for short-term rental. We have to be careful if we're going to create more housing. And again, the tiny housing, you could get ownership, have a lovely little community on 1 acre of land. You could have this, but you can't say, oh, we'll give it to those guys for $100 a weekend. We have to take some controls, and I think we have to recognize that our county is also a city planner.
I agree with both Shana and Jennifer. We have a serious long-term housing problem in our county, and right now, the last of the low-income affordable houses that were built in our county are aging out. It was almost 20 years ago, I think, when the last low-income housing projects were done. When a person builds a